Budget hearing this September 13th, 2021. My godson's birthday today. Happy birthday. And I see a number of people have signed up to speak. So,
And Mayor, tomorrow is the Vice Mayor's birthday.
is it?
Yes, it is.
Okay, well,
And it's a big one.
big one. Well, we won't have to
Yep.
say what it is, but
35.
we all wish her a happy birthday since we won't be here tomorrow. This is a meeting which will be hosted in both a virtual and in-person format. For additional information on how to view or sign up to speak at a meeting, please visit www.fortlauderdale.gov/city commission meetings. And I'll repeat that, www.fortlauderdale.gov/city commission meetings. Now, to help ensure decorum, we ask that you please abide by the following guidelines. Number one, please refrain from any behavior that is disruptive, distractive, profane, or inhibits the meeting in any way. Number two, while you're on the phone waiting for your opportunity to speak, please mute the meeting broadcast that you're listening from, whether it's FLTV, YouTube, Comcast, or AT&T, if you're watching simultaneously in order to avoid delays in the broadcast. I will call upon you when it is your turn to speak, and I also will notify you when your time has expired. The city staff has automatically added speakers into listen-only mode, and you will be unmuted to speak when recognized. Once you have completed speaking, you will be muted. You can stay on, or you may leave the meeting at that time. So tonight we have a number of budget items. Let's start with the roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Vice Mayor Moritas.
Here.
Commissioner Glassman.
Here.
Commissioner McKenzie. Commissioner Sorensen.
Here.
Mayor Trentalis.
Here. Do we do a Pledge of Allegiance for this?
We can if you.
We didn't do it last time.
It's up to you.
No, I don't think we did that. It's not a regular meeting. We'll start with budget one, resolution approving the fiscal year 2022 Central Wastewater Region larger user rate of $2.68 per 1,000 gallons of wastewater treated. I have no one signed up to speak. Any questions? There being none.
Can you explain it to me?
I can, yes. This item hasn't changed. This is not a public hearing, just an agenda item. This is the proposed increase in the water rate use to build up a reserve to be able to build a water plant in the future. And, okay, I've got the wrong one. This is the...
This is for
this is Central Region. Yeah, this is just a large user rate of $2. Okay, yeah, just setting the rate for Central Region.
Setting the rate.
Correct.
for larger user rate.
Correct.
Larger user rate.
If I use more water, I gotta pay more.
If you waste more water, you have to pay more.
There is a higher value on a larger consumption.
If I use more water, I pay more.
That's correct.
Okay, I'm good.
Someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced.
Please call the roll.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, approving setting a rate per 1,000 gallons of wastewater treated for the fiscal year 2022 for all large user wastewater customers of the Central Wastewater Region and providing for an effective date. Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
No.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas, Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, in Budget 2, resolution adopting the final five-year community investment plan for fiscal years 2022 to 2026 and appropriating funding for fiscal year 2022 community investment plan projects. I have no one signed up to speak. Someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced.
Any questions regarding this item? There being none, please call the roll.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, approving and adopting the final five-year community investment plan for the period beginning October 1, 2021 and ending September 30, 2026, appropriating the portion of the community investment plan for the period beginning October 1, 2021 and ending September 30, 2022, and reappropriating the unspent community investment plan project balances at the end of the fiscal year ending September 30, 2021 for the period beginning October 1, 2021 and ending September 30, 2022, and providing for severability and an effective date. Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas,
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, and the resolution is approved. Budget 3, this is an ordinance amending Chapter 28 of the city's Code of Ordinances for increases to tapping charges, water rates, master meter charges, service availability charges, sprinkling charges, and fire service charges. We have one person who signed up to speak. Mr. Corbin, would you like to come to the podium? You have 3 minutes. Good evening.
This is the color of our water in Fort Lauderdale that comes out of 5 Ash. It's green. Other people have yellow water. The solution is to have ozone, biofiltration, and carbon. Now, we were supposed to do a pilot study. A pilot study runs 6 months, and it tests out these different ways to clean up the water. Carollo was supposed to do a pilot study, but the utility director decided to save the city $150,000 and not do it. And actually, the Carollo report says that they don't want to consider ozone because it's not, because of the possibility of high bromide levels in the source water. They don't want to do biological filtration because there's high amounts of dirt in the source water, as you can see by the green color. And they don't want to use carbon because the Carollo report says it'll cost $100 million a year if we use carbon. Completely ridiculous. Okay, so what we did is we got Reese to start on another pilot study because I talked to Ben Sorensen and a couple other people and brought in some people that really know water, and that was decided, yes, we really do need to do a pilot study. So, and they were going to look at ozone, biofiltration, and carbon. Okay, here's how it worked out. February 4, 2020, they were presented with the scope of the project by Reese, by Ed. 6 months go by. Nothing happens, okay? I'd like to have some more time on this, if you guys are interested, because you guys are looking at throwing $430 million in a P3 to get someone else to take care of our water. Let's get to the interesting part. Here's what happened with the pilot study. The utility people would not let them use raw water to examine and do the pilot study. If you can see this, this is the exam, this is the containers where they put the GAC, the carbon. It's all stuffed up with lime, okay? During this, it was only a 10-week pilot study, by the way. Another photo showing something got loose and water was spilling out everywhere. Here's a picture of a pump, completely clogged up with lime. This pilot study could not work at all because they didn't have the cooperation from the utility people who says, we don't want to test raw water. We want to test the water after lime has been put into it, and this is not how pilot studies are done.
Okay,
Do you
Mr.
want me
Corbett.
to stop? I mean, are you
Corbett.
done? You don't want to hear about this, Dean?
What I'd like you to do
Yeah.
is I'd like you to submit that to the commission, so we each have a copy of it. We'll give it to the clerk, and he'll
Yeah.
make copies of it.
You guys know all this.
And-
You
and
guys
I'm
are hell-bent
talking-
on doing a P3.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
You asked me if I wanted to hear about it.
Yeah.
And I said, yes. Please
What
give
about
it-
the public?
The public will have the opportunity, because we'll put it on our website, and they'll be able to see exactly what you have to say. But the 3 minutes is up, and I please ask you to sit down. Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on this item? From from the commission have any questions? There being none, would someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced.
Excuse me, it's an ordinance, I'm sorry, introduced. Thank you.
An ordinance amending Chapter 28, Water, Wastewater, and Stormwater, Sections 28-141, 28-143, 28-144, and 28-145 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, providing for increases to tapping charges, water rates, sprinkling, meter charges, private fire service protection, and providing for an effective date. Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie?
No.
Commissioner Sorensen?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes. And just for those that are listening and have just heard Mr. Corbin, who's now left the room, unfortunately.
He's back.
He's back, okay. We have gone through this discussion on multiple occasions in multiple forums, and I want the community to know that the city management is working aggressively towards trying to create a plan, a program for a new water treatment system in our city. We have multiple unsolicited proposals that are currently pending, and they're sitting within the administration, and we are moving forward in helping to purify the water here in Fort Lauderdale. So just want to be, and the whole point of this ordinance is to be able to fund that process, and we are hoping that we can move forward quickly and aggressively on getting that done. All right. So Budget 4. Public hearing, resolution adopting the fiscal year 2022 ad valorem assessment stormwater program management. No one has signed up to speak. Any questions on this? There being none.
Mr. Mayor, this one is a public hearing, so we need to go by the script if we can.
I can't hear you. What?
This one is a public hearing, so we need to go by the script if we can.
I beg your pardon. This is a public hearing on the stormwater program management assessment. The purpose of the hearing is to receive questions and comments regarding the city's stormwater program management non-ad valorem assessment for fiscal year 2022. The public hearing is now open. The city manager will now present the stormwater management assessment report. Mr. City Manager.
Mr. Mayor, the Stormwater Management Program Assessment funds the planning, coordination, operation, maintenance, and administration of the stormwater management system. The Stormwater Program Management Assessment rate will be equal to the estimated cost paid by the city to operate the stormwater management program within the assessment area for fiscal year 2022. The fiscal year 2022 Stormwater Program Management Assessment is estimated to generate $28,698,537 in revenue. This concludes my report.
Mr. City Manager, what were the initial projects? What neighborhoods are going to be addressed in this program?
I can have that answered for you if I can ask Dr. Gassman to come to the podium.
Is Dr. Gassman here?
She was earlier. If she's not, we can go here to our budget book and say we're talking about Southeast Isles, River Oak, Edgewood, Progresso, Durs, Dorsey Riverbend, and Victoria Park.
Is Melrose involved there also?
No, that came from a different pot of money.
That's correct.
Okay.
That was grant funded.
So the amount of money that's being spent here tonight is for those neighborhoods you just described?
That is correct.
And those are 7?
That's correct.
Those are the adaptation action areas that we once identified?
That is correct.
And we're now funding those, correct?
That's correct.
So this is the time for anyone in the public to speak or ask questions about the Stormwater Program Management Assessment. And I have no one who's signed up to speak. And do I hear a motion to close public hearing?
So move.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie?
No. Oh, yes, for the public hearing.
Commissioner Sorensen?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, public hearing is now closed. So the final stormwater program management assessment rate will be equal to the estimated costs paid by the city to operate the stormwater management program utilities within the assessment area as provided in the resolution approving the stormwater program management assessment. Someone please introduce the resolution adopting the
Introduced.
stormwater program management assessment for fiscal year 2022. Commissioner Glassman introduced it. Please call the roll.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, relating to the provision of the stormwater management program assessments in the City of Fort Lauderdale, imposing stormwater management program assessments against assessed property located in the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, proving the assessment role, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, and providing an effective date. Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Yeah, before I vote, just for the for clarification, this was our stormwater master plan that we had worked on for years prior to me coming here, and we came up with these 7 neighborhoods. And Melrose Manors was not included in this. And this is where I first started talking about, why aren't they included? Which they were at the table, the HOA president, trying to be a part of the master plan. It was the storm incident that got us this commission to address it, find additional money to move them forward. But Melrose Manors never had a stormwater system installed there. Melrose Park system just backed up for a lack of maintenance. So I just wanted to, let you know where we are and clarify, how we got here and why those 7 neighborhoods are there, because this is a combination of years of studies and what areas needed the most according to whoever was on that committee doing this. So I'm voting no for the assessment.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas,
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes. So we're now going to be able to cover those 7 neighborhoods with this assessment. Okay. Budget 5. This is the public hearing on the Lauderdale Isles Water Management District non-ad valorem assessment and budget. The purpose of the hearing is to receive questions and comments regarding the Lauderdale Isles Water Management District non-ad valorem assessment and budget for the fiscal year 2022. The public hearing is now open. The city manager will now present the Lauderdale Isles Water Management District non-ad valorem assessment and budget. Mr. City Manager.
The Lauderdale Isles Water Improvement District assesses the residents of the special district to protect water quality of the waterways in Lauderdale Isles. At the district's March 15, 2021 meeting, the board voted to continue levying an assessment of $15 per parcel for fiscal year 22, which will generate $8,265. The total budget for the district was adopted by the board at $114,665. This concludes my report.
Great, thank you. This is the time for anyone in the public to speak or ask questions regarding the Lauderdale Isles Water Management District non-ad valorem assessment and budget. I have no one who signed up to speak. Anyone on the floor here interested in speaking? Okay. All right, so do I hear a motion to close the public hearing?
So move.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas,
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, so public hearing is now closed. The final Lauderdale Isles Water Management non-ad valorem assessment for fiscal 2022 will be $15 per parcel within the district. Someone please introduce the resolution.
Introduced.
The resolution's been introduced. Please call the roll.
A resolution in the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, Florida, levying a non-ad valorem special assessment for fiscal year 2022 on behalf of the Lauderdale Isles Water Management District and approving the budget for the district. Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas,
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, and Budget 5 is approved. Budget 6. This is the public hearing on the nuisance abatement assessment. The purpose of the hearing is to receive questions and comments regarding the city's nuisance abatement assessment for fiscal year 2022. The public hearing is now open. The city manager will now present the nuisance abatement assessment report. Mr. City Manager.
Mr. Mayor, the nuisance abatement assessment rate will be equal to the actual cost paid by the city to abate the nuisance. The assessment represents 100% cost recovery of the expenses incurred by the city to abate the identified nuisance. The fiscal year 2022 nuisance abatement assessment will generate $32,899.67 in revenue. This concludes my report.
Thank you. So this is the time for anyone in the public to speak and ask any questions regarding the nuisance abatement assessment. I have no one who's signed up to speak. Anyone here in the room interested in speaking? Okay. No further. Someone please move to close the public comment.
So move.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas,
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes. So the final nuisance abatement assessment rate will be equal to the actual cost paid by the city to abate the nuisance for each business and residential property as provided in the resolution approving the nuisance abatement assessment. So will someone please introduce the resolution approving the nuisance abatement assessment roll for fiscal year 2022?
So can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
So who gets assessed? The business that's being abated?
Whichever property has been abated at 100% of the cost of abatement, no
Okay.
more, no less.
Thank you.
Someone please introduce the
Introduced.
resolution. It's been introduced. Please call the roll.
A resolution, the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, imposing nuisance abatement assessments against certain properties located in the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, approving a nuisance abatement assessment role and providing for severability, rescission of conflicting resolution provisions, and an effective date. Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas,
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, and Budget 6 is approved. Budget 7, this is the public hearing on the utility undergrounding assessment. The purpose of the hearing is to receive questions and comments regarding the city's utility undergrounding assessment for fiscal year 2022. The public hearing is now open. The city manager will now present the utility undergrounding assessment report. Mr. City Manager.
Mr. Mayor, the utility undergrounding assessment rate will be equal to the actual cost paid by the city for the undergrounding of overhead utilities within the assessment area. The fiscal year 2022 assessment represents the project costs associated with the continued implementation of the undergrounding of overhead utilities within the assessment area. The assessment amount is $1,515.76 per equivalent benefit unit, EBU. The fiscal year 2022 utility undergrounding assessment is estimated to generate $468,369.84. This concludes my report.
So what is the assessment area? What is the undergrounding area that we're talking about here?
This is the area that we commonly refer to as the Las Olas Isles.
So this is the time for anyone in the public to speak or ask any questions regarding the utility undergrounding assessment. I have no one who signed up to speak. Is there anyone in the audience who's here today on this? Anyone on the commission have any questions?
Yeah, I actually did have a comment, Mayor. Thank you.
Sure.
So, Chris, because this project's been going on for about 11 years now, I know, 11 years. So help me believe that we are going to meet with all of the other neighborhoods that are lining up right behind Las Olas Isles. And I know that Las Olas Isles is going to come up in this special meeting at 6 o'clock, and we need to do some cleanup because of some blips along the road. In our 11th year, we had another blip. So it's got to be so frustrating for the folks that live in these streets that have had money on account with the city for 11 years and had a lot of promises from several commissions in the past. So are we going to work really hard this year with Las Olas Isles? Are we going to work with Idlewild? Are we going to work with Riviera Isles? Are we going to work with Seven Isles? And then anyone else that really wants to look seriously at undergrounding? Are we going to make a really concerted effort to get this done?
I think yes, is the answer to your question. Each of those neighborhoods is very different, as you know, and there's still assorted open items in each of the other neighborhoods that we do need to work through when it comes to easements and other placement of equipment. But we learned a lot in this first process. We learned a lot of how not perfect the beginning of our undergrounding process was many, many, many years ago. You are correct that we do plan on cleaning most of that up this afternoon so that this project can be green-lighted that we're talking about now in Las Olas Isles. I think it is good that we are working our way towards the finish line with one project, and with each subsequent project, I hope that we're more streamlined, quicker, easier, and can get to the finish line in a much more efficient way.
Okay, and I would just request that, you get together with Public Works, and that Public Works is going to regularly scheduled meetings with all of the neighborhoods. They need to have it on their calendar that they're going to know that they're going to be able to meet with our staff and get updates regularly, as opposed to just wondering what's going on out there. Because for me, that's the biggest complaint that I hear, that there's just lack of communication. The meetings are just, maybe yes, maybe no, but we really need to be able to track each neighborhood that's in the pipeline for this and make sure that we have regularly scheduled meetings with updates consistently.
Understood.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Can I ask a question?
Go right ahead.
If they clean it up at 6 this evening, right? If they clean it up, what's the real timeline to get it done? Will it happen before I leave here in 2024?
It will.
Well,
Well, maybe, Commissioner, if you could leave earlier, he'd say it could even happen
If I
earlier.
leave earlier, well, I'll tell you what, 2 for 1.
Why do we have
If
to wait for
both
2?
leave earlier.
Why do we have to wait for 2024? If you tell us you're leaving next year,
Because
maybe
I'm
you'll say
termed
yes
out.
next year.
I'm turned out. If you want to join me, I'll throw
Okay.
you in there.
I'm just trying to
The
get this to
bonus.
happen quicker, that's all.
We throw him as a bonus and we'll get it done
Okay.
in 2 weeks. I'll give you him.
I just,
Maybe I'll have it done by December.
I'm sure the Owls will love that.
I'm, I don't want the people listening to this meeting and your comments to in any way feel that the 11 years that it's been taken up to now is as a result of any inability for city staff to have moved this forward. Having been the district commissioner for a number of years,
You were the problem.
yeah, I'm the problem. Exactly.
I'm just kidding.
FP&L dragged its feet
Right.
in this process, and I really feel bad for the community because yes, sometimes it was a disconnect between the city and FP&L, but I attended many meetings in which FP&L did its best to try to dissuade people from wanting to move forward on this project. So now that I don't know in whose lap the ball is, but I do know that the city staff has always been ready, willing, and able to move forward on its part to get this job done, and hopefully we'll get it done in the next 24 months. We'd like to see that. Okay, any further questions by the members of the commission?
Thank you.
There being none, someone please move to close
Move the
public.
item.
Moved? Do hear
I
a
think
second?
did we close public hearing already? No? So
I think
moved.
we did.
I thought so, but,
Yeah. We closed the public hearing. Now we're doing the,
No, we're closing public hearing.
okay.
we did public hearing.
Move to close public hearing.
Okay.
Commissioner Glassman,
I thought we did.
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas,
Yes.
Mayor Trentels.
Yes, and public hearing is now closed. So the final utility undergrounding assessment for fiscal year 2022 will be $1,515.76 per equivalent benefit unit, EBU. I don't know what that means, but isn't an EBU an animal?
It's an emu.
Emu. Oh, okay.
Emu. Like Liberty Mutual commercials, the emu.
So will someone please introduce the resolution approving the utility undergrounding assessment rate for fiscal year 2022?
I introduced the
Introduced.
emu.
Okay, it's been introduced. Please call the roll.
A resolution in the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida relating to the provision of the underground utility line facilities in the Los Olas Isles neighborhood, imposing underground utility line assessments against assessed property located in the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, approving the assessment role, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, and providing an effective date. Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas,
Yes.
Mayor Trentels.
Yes, and the resolution is approved. Now, Budget 8. This is the public hearing on the Beach Business Improvement District non-ad valorem assessment. The purpose of the hearing is to receive questions and comments regarding the city's Beach Business Improvement District assessment for fiscal year 2022. The public hearing is now open. The city manager will now present the Beach Business Improvement District non-ad valorem assessment report. Mr. City Manager.
Mr. Mayor, the Beach Business Improvement District assessment imposes an assessment on certain portions of beach property to establish funding to support services, facilities, and/or programs providing a special benefit to business properties and areas within the beach business boundaries. The fiscal year 2022 Beach Business Improvement District assessment rate is recommended at 0.8525 per $1,000 of assessed property value to generate approximately $999,613 in revenue. Now, this concludes my report.
Thank you. So this is the time for anyone in the public to speak and ask questions about the Beach Business Improvement District Special Assessment. I have no one signed up to speak. Anyone here in the room interested in speaking? Someone please move to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas, Mayor Trentels.
Yes. So the final Beach Business Improvement District assessment rate will be 0.8525 per $1,000 of assessed value for each business property used for commercial purposes as provided in the resolution approving the Beach Business Improvement District assessment. Someone please introduce the resolution.
Introduced.
It's been introduced. Please call the roll.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida relating to the provision of beach business improvement services in a portion of the city, reimposing beach business improvement assessments against assessed property located within the assessment area for the fiscal year beginning on October 1, 2021, establishing the rate of assessment, approving the assessment rule, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, and providing an effective date. Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and the resolution is now approved. Tom, you just passed your utility undergrounding assessment, so I wish you were here to applaud when it happened. But, oh, you were? Okay. Budget 9. This is the public hearing on the fire assessment. The purpose of the hearing is to receive questions and comments regarding the city's fire assessment fee for fiscal year 2022. The public hearing is now open. The city manager will now present the fire assessment report.
Mr. Mayor, the Fire Assessment Program provides funding for fire suppression services, facilities, and programs that will benefit the city in its entirety, such as fire facility improvements, equipment, cost of operations to fund the city's fire services and facilities. The residential assessment rate is recommended at $311 per year. Non-residential properties are assessed based upon building classification and square foot ranges. For fiscal year 2022, the proposed assessment is $50,121,551, which is estimated to generate $48,619,111 in revenue to the general fund. That concludes my report.
Thank you. So this is the time for anyone in the public to speak or ask questions about the fire assessment. I have no one signed up to speak. Is there anyone in the room that wishes to speak on this item? Any questions from the commission? Someone please move to close public hearing.
Move. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Please
Commis-
call the roll, Mr.
Commissioner
Clerk.
Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, public hearing is now closed. So the final fire assessment rate will be $311 annually for each residential property, and the final fire assessment rate for non-residential properties shall be as shown on the detailed rent schedule provided in the resolution approving the fire assessment. So will someone please introduce the resolution?
Introduce. Second.
Been
Oh, go.
introduced?
No second.
No second.
A resolution in the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, relating to the provision of fire rescue services, facilities, and programs in the city, establishing the rate of assessment, imposing fire rescue assessments against assessed properties located in the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, approving the assessment rule, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, and providing an effective date. Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie?
No.
Commissioner Sorensen?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and the resolution is approved. Budget 10. This is the second of two public hearings as required by law on the Sunrise Key Neighborhood Improvement District millage rate and budget for fiscal year 2022. The purpose of the hearing is to receive questions and comments regarding the Sunrise Key Neighborhood Improvement District's budget and to explain the budget and any amendments thereto. The public hearing is now open. City manager will now present the final millage rate and final budget.
Mr. Mayor, the Sunrise Key Neighborhood Improvement District taxes the residents of the special district to provide security to their neighborhood. Their June 23rd, 2021 meeting, the district voted their millage at 1.0000 mil to generate a tax collection of $141,730 and to support an operating budget of $137,000. This millage rate is 4.24% more than the rollback rate of 0.9593 mils and is necessary to maintain services for the Sunrise Key Neighborhood District. This concludes my report on Sunrise Key.
Okay, thank you. This is the time for anyone in the public to speak or ask questions about the millage rate or budget. I have no one signed up to speak. Anyone from the neighborhood? Anyone here in the room? Okay. Someone please move to close public hearing.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, the public hearing is now closed. The final millage rate for the Sunrise Key Neighborhood Improvement District will be 1.000 mil, which represents an increase of 4.24% over the rolled back rate of 0.9593 mils. Will someone please introduce the resolution?
Introduced.
Final millage rate has been introduced. Please call the roll.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Broward County.
This is the millage rate we're voting for, and then we're going to vote for the budget. Two different votes.
This is the millage rate in Sunrise Key.
Yes, exactly.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, Florida, adopting the final millage rate of 1 mill to be levied by the City of Fort Lauderdale for the Sunrise Key Neighborhood Improvement District for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2021, and ending September 30, 2022. Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas,
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes. So the millage rate, the final millage rate for Sunrise Key Neighborhood Improvement District is now approved. Now, will someone please introduce the resolution adopting the final budget for the Sunrise Key Neighborhood Improvement District for fiscal year 2022? It's been introduced.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, Florida, adopting the final budget of $141,730 for the Sunrise Key Neighborhood Improvement District for fiscal year beginning October 1, 2021, and ending September 30, 2022. Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas,
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes. And the budget for Sunrise Key is now approved. Our next item is the City of Fort Lauderdale final 2022 millage rate. This is the second of two public hearings as required by law on the millage rates for fiscal year 2022. The purpose of the hearing is to receive questions and comments regarding the city's millage rate and to explain any amendments thereto. The public hearing is now open, and the city manager will now present the final millage rate on which the fiscal year 2022 budget is based.
Mr. Mayor, the fiscal year 2022 City of Fort Lauderdale final budget includes maintaining the current millage rate of 4.1193 and increasing the combined voter-approved debt service millage from .2218 to .2613 mils. The recommended millage rate of 4.1193 exceeds the rollback rate of 3.9693 by 3.78%. The aggregate final millage rate, including the Sunrise Key Dependent District, is 4.1227, which results in an increase of 3.78% above the aggregate rollback rate of 3.9727 and is premised upon the following. Funding increases in wages and insurances. Funding key commission priorities and community investment plan projects. Maintaining a healthy fund balance. Increases to the fiscal 2022 general fund budget that require maintaining the millage rate at the same rate as the prior 14 years include increases in salaries and wages, $10.9 million, increase in the transfer to capital projects, $11.5 million, increase in transfers to the CRA and sanitation funds, $2 million, increase in capital outlay, $2.4 million, increase in pension, insurance premiums, and taxes, $2.2 million. This concludes my report.
Thank you. So this is the time for anyone in the public to speak or ask questions about the final millage rates. I have no one signed up to speak. Is anyone in the room interested in speaking regarding this? Okay, someone please close public hearing. Please. The motion for it to close public hearing has been made. Would someone like to second it?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas,
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, so public hearing is now closed. So the recommended millage rate for all general city purposes exclusive of debt service will be 4.1193, which represents a 3.78 increase in the millage rate over the rollback rate of 3.9693 mils. The aggregate tentative millage rate, including dependent districts, is 4.1227, which results in an increase of 3.78% above the aggregate rollback rate of 3.9727 mils. Are you keeping up? The recommended millage rate for the debt service
Broward County, Florida, adopting the final operating millage rate of 4.1193 and debt service millage rate of 0.2613 to be levied by the City of Fort Lauderdale for fiscal year beginning October 1, 2021 and ending September 30, 2022. Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas,
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
yes, and the fiscal year 2022 millage rate has now been established at 4.1193. the final item, which is Budget 12. This is the second of two public hearings as required by law on the City of Fort Lauderdale budget for fiscal year 2022. Purpose of the hearing is to receive questions and comments regarding the city's budget and to explain the budget and any amendments thereto. Public hearing is now open, and the city manager will now present the final budget. Mr. City Manager.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the fiscal year 2022 City of Fort Lauderdale final budget includes maintaining the current millage rate of 4.1193 and includes an annual fire assessment rate of $311 per single-family residential unit. The final budget is premised on the following: funding increased contractual wage and insurance adjustments, funding key commission priorities and community investment plan projects, maintaining a healthy fund balance. There have been no adjustments to the fiscal year 2022 budget since the approval of the tentative budget on September 8th, 2021. That concludes my report on the fiscal year 2022 final budget. However, based on the guidance received at the first budget hearing, I am prepared to discuss the requested proposal, which was distributed on September 9th, to outline the adjustments that would be needed if the Commission intends to add 16 fire rescue positions. I've also compiled a summary of additional funding requests for not-for-profit organizations submitted by members of the Commission that has been provided or will be provided to you now for our discussion. So just for a matter of the record, we're going to hand those out as well as forward it to Commissioner Sorensen, who's participating remotely. That concludes my report.
Okay. Can I have a copy of this?
Thank you. Chris, did we also receive this via email recently?
This was updated within the last 30 minutes.
Okay. Will it show that, because I read over some of it, will it highlight what changed in 30 minutes by any chance?
I got one.
No, this is everything. Okay.
Okay. This is a time for anyone in the public to speak or ask any questions about the final budget. I have quite a few people who have signed up to speak. So I will call you, and if you could kindly keep your comments to 2 minutes, I think that would be helpful. Some are here in person, some are here virtually, so we'll start with Bonnie Clearwater. Are you here in the audience? Hey, Bonnie, why don't you come on up?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commissioners and Vice Mayor. Happy birthday. I appreciate the opportunity to talk. Thank you for all the support that this city has provided NSU Art Museum, Fort Lauderdale. We have become truly the cultural hub for this community. The last Sunday of every month, we are providing free Fort Lauderdale Neighbor Days, where the entire community comes together and is inspired by the museum and our exhibitions. Our major show last year, Happy, well, it was so important to our community and its health, understanding how artists deal with the entire range of human emotions, was teaching moments for families, for schools. We worked with over 4,000 children in the schools, providing free virtual programming all last year, and we're continuing to do that as well, including providing every one of those kids with their own art supplies. We have continued to find other ways of making access to all, including joining the program, the national program called Museums for All, in which all families from low-income families who qualify for assistance such as SNAP to get free admission to the museum at all times. And talk about free, we have always been free to all children ages 12 and under. The museum has emphasized its role in helping to reboot the essential tourism which is so important for the economy of Fort Lauderdale and is consistently being recognized nationally and internationally as a major tourist attraction, all of which will help in the rebooting of the tourism. So your support is absolutely essential for us to meet all the needs of this community and culture for this coming year. Thank you.
Great, thank you. We now have Joe Cox, who's appearing virtually, followed by Barbie Pearson, who's appearing virtually, followed by Raquel Lopez, who is appearing virtually. Is Joe Cox on the line?
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor. Thank you so much for the opportunity to join. Joe Cox, President, CEO of the Museum of Discovery and Science, and just want to say thank you for the opportunity to participate in the nonprofit grant program. This support is going to be absolutely critical in providing amazing programming for every second and fourth grade student in Fort Lauderdale's public schools. That's 3,221 students last time we checked. The museum is providing matching funds to support this nonprofit grant process, and we've secured all of those matching funds, and they're standing by ready to go. You know, our students have really suffered over the last 18 months, despite the incredible work of their teachers and parents. But we really see the museum as being part of the learning ecosystem, and we're standing by ready to provide STEM programming, science, technology, engineering, and math to those students to really re-engage them and raise the educational achievement in the city of Fort Lauderdale schools. So thank you for the opportunity, and thank you to the city for your ongoing support, not just of the Museum of Discovery and Science, but so many nonprofits in our community. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Barbie Pearson, followed by Raquel Lopez, followed by Bill Kent. Is Barbie Pearson on the line?
This is Barbie Pearson, and I want to thank you, Mayor and Commissioners, for all your support with the arts. It appears that the city's wavering on some of the grants for cultural arts and historic entities in Fort Lauderdale. I wanted to mention that since COVID, virtually all of those entities that struggle to make ends meet are now really hurting. At this time, a little help would be very much appreciated. And if any of those are going to be given anything, one of them should definitely be the Bonnet House. The Bonnet House has applied for a grant request for $25,000 to replace their antiquated radio system for the property, a system being used for 30 years plus that is costing so much to maintain now and keep it going. It's a necessary upgrade and safety issue, with the coordinates from golf carts to guides to when problems happen. They've gotten everything they can out of the system and wrote a grant for $25,000 to replace it. If we step back in time and we take perspective of how much land that Hugh Taylor Birch gave and donated to the city of Fort Lauderdale, and how many millions of dollars of revenue every year we get from the tourists that flock to that beach, the only beach in the area that's not covered with hotels or condos, I think we should give them the $25,000 this year. Please think about it. They deserve it, and also support for the other arts. Thank you so much.
Barbie, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So, explain to me, why don't people just use their cell phones? I don't understand why we need a two-way radio system, which is something that was 20 years ago. Why don't people just use their cell phones if they're needing to communicate from one end of the property to the next?
Well, they do use that for some of the tours. They can scan in and get the tour part of it. But it's such a large property that amongst the staff and the volunteers and so on, and for safety, they need that. And they need it upgraded. It has to go to everyone. So that's why, and they're asking for that specifically.
Okay, thank you.
At any time, there are like 40 or 50 volunteers. And I'm a fine artist and a volunteer there, but I do garden, not that.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Raquel, followed by Bill Kent. Bill, are you in the room? Okay. When it's your turn, if you can come up to the podium. Is Raquel Lopez there? Is Raquel there from World AIDS Museum? Is she on the line? She's not on the line? Okay. Bill, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to support the budget amendment for arts and cultural organizations that Commissioner Glassman has submitted to the budget. We at the Hall of Fame are most grateful for all of the support that's been going on down there. The not-for-profit organization has financially suffered because of the closure, but we have a lot of programming and new relationships that we're developing to try to generate income. But in the meantime, we continue to suffer. So we appreciate Commissioner Glassman's support through this budget amendment.
I see here that there was never an application submitted. So what would it really be used for?
Operations.
Just
We're running a serious deficit, sir.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Any questions of Mr. Kent?
I do have one other additional question.
Sure.
The status of the naming rights proposal, 21 months ago, in January of last year, Fluidra, one of the world's largest manufacturers of swimming pool equipment, offered to pay $3 million for the naming rights to the facility once it's finished, and we're still stuck. We had a little back and forth about that around a month ago, but literally nothing has happened since then.
That you should probably take up with our city manager, if you don't mind doing that.
I'll be happy to do that.
I thought it was resolved, though.
Happy to provide an update. No, it's far from resolved. We continue to submit comments back to Fluidra, and they continue to not accept them and submit comments back to us. So right now, it's in their court.
Okay. All right, waiting to hear back from them. Okay, Brianna Obst and Philip Dunlap, the last two people who have asked to speak. Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Everyone. My name is Brianna Obst, and I'm the Managing Director of Thinking Cap Theatre that has been producing off-Broadway and off-Broadway style theatre, off-Broward, for the past 10 years. And it is our hope that we can continue to be part of the cultural landscape of Fort Lauderdale for the next 10 years. We offer theatre that is really different to what people in Fort Lauderdale can get elsewhere. We have been doing diversity, equity, and inclusion since our founding 10 years ago, and we wish to continue this journey together. And like a lot of other nonprofits, we are a very small one. We've been hit hard by the pandemic. On top of that, 2020 was our 10th anniversary season, or meant to be. We got in one production at the beginning of 2020, and our ticket company that we outsourced went a little bit AWOL during the pandemic, and so we're still owed thousands of dollars from that first production in 2020. So we're struggling here, and we can no longer be surviving project to project. We have produced a number of virtual programs over 2020 and 2021, and we're ready to reopen in person, but we definitely need city support from everybody here to we would ideally love for general operating, because our two core staff members, our artistic director, managing director, myself, have been working pro bono indefinitely, have been doing so, and have only been paid from project to project and not for everything in between, the groundwork in between. And we want to have Thinking Cap Theatre really become, once again, a staple here in Fort Lauderdale as we try to move forward beyond this pandemic and reopen.
All right, great.
Thank you.
Thank you. The last person that has signed up to speak is Philip Dunlap. Hello, Philip.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor. My birthday was Saturday, so it's nice to be
Did you just have a
in the company of a fellow Virgo. I know I'm in good company here. No shade to anyone else, but and commissioners, city manager, I'm here to speak in support of all of the arts and cultural organizations that have requested funding. Not only those 4 organizations that are included in the current recommended budget, but also the additional organizations, the much smaller organizations that Commissioner Glassman is requesting to be included in the budget. I will say that in totality, the amount that additional is being requested is tantamount to a rounding error in the city's budget. I should disclose I am a city resident, District 2, over here in Flagler Village. I'm also director of Broward County's Cultural Division. The county invests more than nearly $5 million a year in the arts and culture sector in Broward County. Many of those organizations exist here in Fort Lauderdale. And so I'm asking for the city to step up and include these organizations in partnership with the county. The city and the city residents definitely benefit from these organizations being here. And I don't want to see any money taken away from everybody, but from a fairness and equity standpoint, I would ask that those additional be included. And so thank you very much.
Thank you. So you're not here with regard to any specific organization or club, you're just here in general. Okay. All right, is there anyone here in the audience who is interested in speaking? Because I have no one else who has signed up to speak. With that being said, would someone like to move to close public hearing?
So move.
Been moved, do I hear a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded, please call the roll.
Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas,
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes. Oop. There we go. So public hearing is now closed. So what is the pleasure of the commission?
Mayor, I did have a couple of comments, if that's
Yes.
okay. Thank you. Several months ago, I did submit a list to the city manager for consideration because I did think that after we had our joint meeting with the Budget Advisory Board that we needed to do a little bit more for the arts and cultural sector because it really was a sector that was severely impacted by COVID. Other businesses were able to somewhat conduct business. There was a little bit, but with regards to arts and culture, really nothing because people were not able to gather. So there's a big hurt there in our community, and that sector in our community contributes so much to our way of life. So I submitted that list a couple of months ago. It was 11 organizations that I submitted to the city manager, and it just sort of lay dormant there for a while. And when I saw that nothing was really happening, that's why I brought it up at the last meeting. My list of arts and cultural organizations actually totaled about $112,000 for 12 organizations. So $112,000 for 12 organizations in an all-in budget of almost $900 million is, I think, like some of the speakers have said, really a blip. Now, we did just get a new list, I guess, from the city manager. So my 11 organizations have now gone down to 10. There's one missing, but there's another addition of 10 other organizations that were not submitted to us when we did get the memorandum from the city manager last week. So I see that there's a big difference now. So this is in full transparency because I want to make sure people know, because this is not in the backup. My list did total $112,000 for 11 organizations. And I do see that.
Well, somehow it ballooned to 427,000.
Well, yes, it did. And I know exactly because there are 10 new organizations that I've never seen on a list before, and one of them for $150,000. I was trying to keep this relatively painless for the city, and that's why I submitted my list months ago. 11 organizations for $112,000, but now we're looking at 21 organizations for $427,500. So I need to hear from the city manager about that, and I need to find out why my South Florida Pride Wind Ensemble request was omitted from this list that we just have now.
So Laura and I are going through and doing a cross-reference with.
For
2,500.
2,500.
All of my recommendations were 20,000 and less. South Florida Pride Wind Ensemble was omitted from the list you just submitted tonight for 2,500. Although it's included in your memorandum, Chris, of September 10th.
It is. Yeah, we just spotted it here. So there would be a South Florida Pride Wind Ensemble at $2,500 added to.
Okay, I assume,
But
Commissioner McKenzie, you're the
consider
one
that to be an
You're
amendment.
the one that added, did you submit a list also?
That is correct.
So, this is the first time I've seen those additions, so,
We saw these names on the original, all but I think one was on the original request that the Budget Advisory Board evaluated, not to the amounts. When we decided that we were going to move forward with what the Budget Advisory Board recommended, and then when Commissioner Glassman came back with his request, my comment was if we're going to open it back up, then it should be opened back up to any submittals from any commissioner's district. I thought in the overall process, not to bash the Budget Advisory Board or anything, that my district always had the heavier lift. And when you look at the distribution of funds, my district gets the least amount of money. And when you did go in and look at certain organizations, you pick the Boys and Girls Club, you pick Jack and Jill, you pick I think one or two others in my district, and you gave them large sums of monies. But there's a greater need in my district for this type of funding, which I initially agreed that we shouldn't be in the funding business for nonprofits, but we got here as a commission, and we've been doing it each and every year. So if we're going to do it, it needs to be some type of equability in terms of how we do this. And you can't always see it through the eyes of others on these boards. Not to say the board didn't do a good job, but if they recommended one thing and now we're doing another, this is my opportunity to include some of the folks in our district. And when you look at the Northwest Federated Women's Club, which is a large ask, that they've been providing services in this community for years. They get they get matching dollars from the Area Agency on Aging, and their current facility, where we have senior daycares to date, is in need of a roof, which is a big lift. Just to provide those services. That's where the big number came in. The rest of them are just basically 20,000, 10,000, 5,000, and what have you. But this is my request if we're going to move in this direction. If not, it goes away.
what percent of their budget would the $150,000 represent?
I don't have that information here. I think we had their budget when we initially went through it was a smaller amount that was requested to the BAB board. Come on up.
Brian, do you want to come up to the podium and only answer the question if you know the answer? I don't speculate, and I'm just curious. $150,000 is a lot of money, so I just want to know: was a request originally submitted to your board?
It was a smaller request at the time. So when we went back and said we're going to add to it, I went back and asked my charities in my district what would be an amount they would need to keep their doors open, so to speak. This is how I derived these numbers. But their budget, Brian can speak to.
Okay, so this is the first time I'm seeing this list, but I have another member of BAB sitting here. There are multiple organizations on this list that never submitted an application, so they were never part of the review process.
I see that's indicated in a few of these. Correct?
And then the Northwest Federated Women's Club, I would have to refer to their application, which I don't have with me, but it was never for the amount of $150,000. So I don't know where the 150, it's never been reviewed, so it's being submitted without any type of a review at all. So I can't comment on something that I haven't seen or was privy to.
Okay.
Which the question was basically what was their budget, am I correct?
I just wanted to know what the percentage of their budget
Percentage,
was. The $150,000. He can't answer that.
No, because they didn't ask for $150,000.
No, they did, because at the time they asked based on what your guidelines were requesting. But when I went back after we decided we're going to open this back up, I wanted to know what they needed right now that was imminent to keeping their doors open, which was a new roof.
But there were other organizations within your district which were awarded funding in the list, and there were other organizations that I don't see on your request list that did ask for additional money that I guess you decided not to submit.
That is correct.
Laura, do you have the list from Budget Advisory Board when they submitted to us what that was, so we know what the Northwest Federated Women's Club of Broward County asked for? And I would say also, Mayor, just so you know, all of the recommendations that I made, I did it by sector, arts and cultural sector. I did not do it by district. These are not all by any means in my district, District 2. I did it again as a arts and cultural sector that I felt was badly hurt in the pandemic. And actually, the numbers that I put there are, some of them are not all. I capped it at 20,000 per organization. And for many of those organizations that you see, at least the 11 that I had submitted 2 months ago, I actually reduced those amounts because I was trying to be conscientious with regards to the budget, and I was wondering where these funds would be coming from. That's another question I have now that this is mushroomed to $427,500. But I think that if we do this and we pass this, we have to bring that number down. Again, it's the only one on this list that is above $20,000, and I did lower all the other ones accordingly.
Okay, so Commissioner,
What's
Vice
number,
Mayor,
Steve?
did you add to any list? Did you add any organizations?
I can't even get a free park in my district. No, I didn't add anything.
Steve, Steven,
Yes.
which one you want to bring down?
Hold on a second. The Commissioner Sorensen, did you add to this list?
No, I did not, Mayor.
Okay, so right now we're just talking about Commissioner McKenzie's and Commissioner Glassman's recommendations.
Mr. Mayor, can I just clear a couple things up just so that we are all operating with the same
Yes,
information?
yes.
So the sheet that we just sent out to you, the 427.5 with the grand total of funding, that is a correct total, including Commissioner Glassman's request for the wind ensemble. Just when we did a copy paste out of Excel and into Word, for whatever reason that one fell out, but that number is correct.
Okay.
And what would still be being considered is Commissioner Glassman's 11 requests.
Okay, so
That was
his 11 requests are 100.
That was an inadvertent fall off of our form.
Okay, and do you have-
Second thing is the initial requested amount from the Northwest Federated Women's Club of Broward County was $78,309.
78,000?
78,309. That's the only new information I have that I can hopefully get us all on the same, where we're
So
coming
you
from the
don't have
same
any,
place.
you don't have their application as to what percentage of their budget that represents?
We do not, we do. The question is whether we have it at our fingertips. We're pulling it now, and we'll bring it up as soon as we can.
Okay, all right. So my first question, I'll repeat, what is the pleasure of the commission? Do we want, I mean, I don't know. First of all, Mr. City Manager, are you going to pull $427,500 out of your hat tonight?
Well, I think we need to talk in the context of both of those items that were there, because you sent me away at the last budget hearing to go find funding for 16 fire positions as well. And so it's sort of all intermingled, so I don't know that we can have one conversation without having the other.
Okay, so, all right, so the last meeting, we had talked about the amount of funding for the fire department, and there was an issue as to whether or not there was sufficient funding to include an additional 16 positions that had not been budgeted, but were intended to cover the amount of overtime that is currently being expended because of the lack of 16 individuals working for the department. That did not include the deficit of, 40-something members of the fire department, which we're currently trying to fill those positions. So it was like 40 plus the 16, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, the easiest way for me to walk you through this, what we did, and what we've done is what you all could either decide to move forward with tonight or not. If I could take you to Exhibit 5, and this is sort of important, Exhibit 5 of the meeting that was published. Do you have access to your?
I don't have the exhibits in front of me.
Okay. Do we have any copy?
It's in the backup.
Okay. Well, I'll do the best I can then with talking through it. So you asked us to go away and look at those 16 positions that were asked for in the as a new initiative in the budget request. We did that, and what was initially asked for was 6-month positions, beginning with positions starting on April 1, 2022. And so we looked at it from that perspective. In order to fund that for 6 months of the fiscal year, the dollars needed is $848,742. $848,742. When we looked at the budget and said, how in fact could we cover that cost, what I would recommend we do if you all want to move forward is to take the one-time cash purchase that we had for the Life Pack 15s. That's the defibrillator, start your heart back working device that we were going to do a one-time cash purchase of at $1.767 million in this fiscal year. We do have the option, although we've not availed ourselves to it to this point, and I'm not exactly sure why, because it seems like it's actually a fairly decent option, to finance those items over a non-interest 7-year financing of those Life Pack 15s, which again would take that $1.767 million and spread it out over 7 years. The item depreciates over 8 or 9 years. So, that was my first question is, are we still gonna owe money on it after it's already depreciated and gone? And the answer to that is no, I don't think so. I still think there'll be a useful life.
Still buy the Life Packs.
We'll still buy them. We're just gonna buy them equally over 7 years without paying interest, as opposed to just an initial upfront cash purchase. What we can do is we can take, now if you can look at the screen, we can take that $1.767 million as a revenue offset and bring back in the first debt service payment, which is what that $300,000 is that you see underneath the red number, but also fund the $848,742 in the request that you all asked me to go look at. And candidly, if we're going to go down this path tonight, I would like to talk with you about the Real-Time Crime Center, and rather than reclassifying those positions, actually there would be dollars there to fund the 4 people that were requested in the budget as well to open up the Real-Time Crime Center.
The Real-Time Crime Center. Let me just ask you a question, though.
Okay.
Because we have a significant deficit in the full complement of firefighters in our department. And what happens if we don't get to the point of fulfilling that full complement before we ever get to the 16 additional? What's our, we don't really need the money then for these additional firefighters if we can't even reach the full complement that we need to fulfill, correct?
Correct. We've got to get close to fully staffed. Otherwise, you're just adding your exercises on paper rather than in practice.
Right. So what's the do we have in the pipeline sufficient candidates to be able to fill those 40-something positions?
When I met with the fire department the day after the budget hearing, they tell me that they're maintaining a list and that the candidates on the list have still indicated interest in employment with the city of Fort Lauderdale.
Right. I understand that. But there are also, I know a number of people who are on that list who have their name in 5 other departments too.
That's typically what happens, right? So there's always people we go to that are not available.
Right. So what we're doing tonight is giving you if we were to do this tonight, we're just giving you the authority to borrow the money to buy these Life Packs, having sufficient funds to pay for 6 months worth of salary and benefits for those 16 people, should we ever reach that point where we can hire 16 more people.
Correct. You would be approving them on the personnel complement,
Right.
and you would be identifying funding so that when I went to move forward with them, I wouldn't get stuck with the auditor tell me I had, hiring people without appropriated funds. But if I take it, if you let me just take it one step further and just tidy up the whole discussion, then it can go wherever you want it to go. The last line on the expenditure side there, that $327,000. That's the delta, the number that exists that would be unassigned. And if you all move forward with the nonprofits tonight, I was going to tell you that let's use this 327 and use whatever value you choose from the nonprofits, and we'll take it from this 327, and then we'll let what's ever left automatically roll into the fund balance.
All right, let's put that conversation aside for a
But
moment.
that's the bucket that if you were to do nonprofits, that's the bucket I had tonight ready to talk to you as the place to use.
All right, now let's talk about the Real-Time Crime
Correct.
Center.
Yeah, so we talked about that during the budget process, and it was talked about technology as a way of solving crime. And when I brought it to the commission earlier and said, I think we can find some positions that we can reclass and go ahead and get that thing staffed up, and not need to identify funding in the budget. We've done that exercise and tried to look at what makes sense to reclass, and there's just not an apple to an apple that made sense to do, and it was going to require a whole amendment of our personnel pay plan and our personnel complement and creating new positions in the pay plan, doing a pay plan amendment. If we're seeing that there was some sufficient funds in reallocating the way that we purchase these life packs, I thought that if we're going to bring a 16 firefighter initiative forward, that maybe it partnered with the ability to get the real-time crime center open as well was another good use of saying, the only reason we opened up this budget and made some different choices was for public safety.
So what are we looking at in terms of expenditure?
So that would be the 291, 820, that second line down.
Okay, so this, I wish you could enlarge.
You can.
We can. We should be able to. Can the IT folks enlarge the screen for the commission, please?
5%.
My glasses.
Okay.
That's good.
And Chris, the real-time crime center, obviously, we're talking about for Fort Lauderdale PD.
Yeah, we are. We're talking about those for the request that came in during the initiative package. It would just be funded this way as opposed to taking, say, 4 detention officers and reclassifying them to crime analysts to staff the real-time crime center.
Okay. So this would be in addition to the deficit we're also experiencing in the police department in terms of the number of sworn officers that
Correct.
we feel is a full complement to get to the point where we need to be,
Correct. The police have some vacancies on paper as well. So you're right. There are.
What's that number of vacancies? I just want to be comparing apples to apples, like PD and fire. What's the
Brandon,
vacancy
the number of vacant?
Let me see if
Chief, I didn't see you in the back. Okay.
Chief is stood up here. Let's see if he can come talk to us about.
We got to get him a uniform one of these days.
He had a mask on.
We got him a uniform.
Not yet.
When do we get him a uniform?
Next month.
In September.
Next month, I'm working on it. I'm going to hem him up for him.
It's not in the budget.
Larry,
I'm still hemming his pants.
It's not in the budget.
Not in the budget. No
the
uniform.
current vacancy.
For the Pride window.
No soup for you.
Current vacancy for police, it's at 22 with 7 anticipated vacancies by the end of the year. So by the time we start 2021, as we know it today, we'll have 29 vacancies in the police department.
Okay, and how many officers do you have sort of?
That's 530, which means it's 4.1% of our staff.
Right, so do you have a pipeline of recruits that you feel will be able to fill those vacancies?
We will not have that vacancy completed. We will not have those vacancies filled by the end of the year. We will have some of them, but the process as I know it is a little difficult as it relates to the way we hire, and which is what we have been revisiting over the last month. They've been revisiting over the last 3 months to make recommendations to commission and the city manager in which method we will hire moving forward.
Okay, so if we're talking about 4 tactical analysts,
Those aren't comparable to sworn.
so they're
officers.
completely different.
Completely different.
Okay.
Yeah. One
Are these
is
sworn-
not like
Are
the
these
other.
sworn officers?
They're not.
They're not. Okay, all right.
So, Mayor, sorry, was that 29? The chief said?
29.
Okay. And what's it in fire rescue? I just didn't. It's vacancies.
Well, the fire chief.
We have the individuals on a list, and like you said, sometimes, they're working or looking at several jobs, but we have expedited our hiring process in order to not lose good candidates. So we're doing several things, and I won't, elaborate on that, but we are doing things that keep those individuals with us.
Okay.
Chief, how are we doing in terms of those 24 in Cadet Academy? Obviously, we've been focused on diversity and, working a lot on that. How are we doing in terms of diversity on those 24?
I wish I had those numbers with me right now, but I do know that that class, if we count as minorities, the women, African American, Hispanics, it is a majority minority class of 24.
Okay, great. And Chief, again, remind me, because I want to make sure we're treating both critical public safety sides fairly. Again, the reason we need this that 16 are so important is tell us again.
So those 16 are to help us fill out our staffing factor that we are currently using of 4.55, and that will allow us to maintain our minimum staffing levels of 86 seats that need to be filled every single day in order to continue to provide service to the community.
Okay, and just to translate that to layman's, what does 87 seats mean?
So 86 seats mean that every single morning we have to have 86 people working in order to be in a seat on a fire truck or a rescue truck in order to have the right complement to be able to put them out on emergency calls.
Okay, and what we don't have, we're not at that level right now?
We are, but sometimes we have to use overtime because of, number one, because of our vacancies, and then number two, because that staffing factor accounts for time off, such as our Kelly days, vacation days, military leave, in some cases sick call, light duty. Individuals get injured and they go on to light duty. They can't be out in operations. So there's a number of things that cause a vacancy, and in that case, that's why the additional 16, well, what it equates to is like 5 more people on each shift. There are 3 shifts, and firefighters work 24 hours on and 48 hours off.
Okay, and by having the 16, you mentioned because we don't have the full complement we need, by having 16, you said that'll what, significantly reduce overtime?
So I hate to say significantly, there's always something can happen like the pandemic did this year, but it will minimize overtime. But the other important part is that it will reduce the wear and tear, if you will, on the current firefighters trying to work numerous hours of overtime, and in some cases being mandatory to work when they're just worn out.
Okay, thanks. So, Mayor, I'm just a couple of questions. I was looking at John Herbst. He did an analysis, the city auditor did an analysis of this. So I just have some questions on that, and then with Chris to kind of help try to give us apples to apples kind of comparison for both PD and fire.
I don't understand your question.
Oh, sure. So I guess, Chris, one of the questions is, what we're doing for fire rescue, do we need to consider doing the same thing for PD, or do you feel like PD is sufficiently staffed, whereas fire is sounds like not sufficiently staffed?
So I don't know if this is going to answer your question, but I think we're doing this out of order. Because what we're doing is we're impacting this year's fiscal year, but more importantly is we're really, if you move forward tonight, we're really altering the trajectory of the next fiscal year, because while these have 6-month or potentially 9-month costs this year, they are recurring. And so next year, they're going to have a full year cost. And it's much easier to grasp a handle on a budget, and albeit ours is big, I get that. So yes, a couple $1 million on 897 on a percentage basis is not huge. But when we get to this point in the budget, it's been months and months and months getting a budget tightened down to the point that we feel that the revenues meet the expenditures. And there's not a lot of $1 million wiggle rooms in budgets when we're at this point in the process. So, we can certainly look at, I wouldn't suggest tonight on the fly that we do anything beyond what I've brought to you as a proposal for what keeps the budget balanced. That doesn't mean there's not an opportunity to do it in the next fiscal year, but we're really sitting at the second budget hearing of a very long process. So we're at the finish line. And I've never been a fan of sweeping changes to a budget from the dais live and in real time at a public hearing, because we don't really think through what the opportunities that we don't think in the moment are. And, there will be the law of unintended consequences if we do many tweaks beyond what's being proposed tonight. So I guess that's a long answer to say, even if we need to, tonight's not that night.
Chris, I have a question. The city auditor's memo to us in terms of the life pack financing, are you going to be doing what he had recommended in terms of the tax-exempt banknote rather than the vendor financing? Are you going in that?
I know he made a recommendation that was, we like to follow the auditor's recommendations. So I can honestly tell you I haven't digested his memo since he emailed it today. So if there's a recommendation in there and we don't have any problem doing it, well,
I know, and he was looking into the future. It's dated tomorrow.
how about that?
Thanks,
Looking
John.
into the future with that
man of the
9/14/21.
This is true. We actually finished it up Sunday and sent it out first thing this morning. But yes,
First thing tomorrow.
apparently I'm anticipating tomorrow.
There you go. It's always good to look forward.
We're forward looking.
We will.
It's
Trying to be
good.
very progressive, very forward.
It's good. But Chris, I have a question for you because you talked about the fact that in your memo of September 9th, you tell us that the transfer of savings to the general fund balance is $619,006.
That's close.
Correct. That was before I further amended that when we published the budget. And so if you compare that memo to the memo that published when the budget published, that would be when I would suggest that instead of it all rolling to the fund balance, because we're at our 25%, that we addressed the real-time crime center, and was holding the rest of the dollars in that place so that if you all wanted to address nonprofits, you could. So
So the
there has been
619
there's been a change. There's been a further amendment to that memo that had the 619 in it.
So the 619 now is down to 327. Is that the bottom line roughly?
Yeah. That's, if you want the punchline, that's the punchline.
Okay, so that's what you see as our cushion for next year for the budget is 327, correct?
I don't see it as a cushion. I see that as the available funds if you choose to fund additional nonprofits.
Okay, so that
So-
to me is the ceiling.
Okay, so for that, I've been in consultation with Commissioner McKenzie, and we've been able to come up with a.
Was that in the sunshine?
It is now.
Okay.
He cut it.
We've been able to.
Cut it.
We've been able to come up with a funding request of 325,000 approximately, which is under your 327,000. So he was able to shave off about $100,000 worth of requests.
Can you tell us where?
Yeah, I will.
Thank you.
So in Academic Foundation, reduce that to 10,000. Delta Education and Life Development Foundation, reduce that to 10,000. Homes Inc., reduce that to 10,000.
Which is not in my district, by the way. Thank you for your comments
Well, it's
earlier.
everywhere.
I'm talking about him.
Okay.
These groups service the entire city, Commissioner McKenzie.
But you
These
made
are
the
not.
comment.
Okay.
He's not.
You made a
these-
comment.
these are
I'm
for-
clarifying it.
these
Okay,
are for
okay.
everyone.
All right,
Hit
all right.
hit
all
him
right.
For
with it.
everyone.
Hey, you want to throw this at him?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. The Northwest Federated Women's Club reduced that to their original request of 78,309. And that should give us, if you add all that up, get your adding machine out.
Call you the Turk. The Turk. Right.
Let's see if my number. Let's see if my addition is right.
In this list, do I not see academic?
Scared if the attorneys added up.
Delta.
Is it right?
Hang on, my fingers are still working.
It's that Greek math.
78,309. I see that to be 325,809.
325,809.
What'd you get?
325 and change.
The Turk.
So, Chris, if I can just
Yes,
go
Ben,
back to
ahead.
fire and PD, I just want to make sure I'm tracking this. So, Chris, you feel, hey, this is the right thing to do with the additional 16. The phasing, you think, is the right thing to do in terms of 6 months? I just want to check on that.
I think
That's
both of
a-
those proposals seem like a good thing for us.
Yeah, at this point, I brought you a budget that I believed in for the next fiscal year. This is an alteration to it. I'm happy to move to it because the commission sets policy, and that's what we follow.
Perfect.
But yeah, there's absolutely nothing wrong with additional public safety staffing. Absolutely nothing. But I think that this is going to. I think we'll be reliving public safety staffing again here soon.
Okay. And then for, ensuring we're, equally supporting police, the idea being kind of reevaluate, Chris, as we get into the budget year for PD needs. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's something that we'll either have to work on during the progress of the fiscal year as funds become available, or
Right.
Something we really seriously have to address. I mean, I believe, and I'll just tell you, and I think you all know it, that this is really, I believe, telegraphing the fact that we're going to have to look fairly substantially at a millage rate increase in the next year, unless we are able to do some really creative balancing. Time will tell. I'm not predisposed to that, but just know that when we make changes like this to recurring costs,
You've been listening to Brian Donaldson.
they occur year after year, and we just need to be prepared for that.
Well, what I did today, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
When I was speaking, was I once allowed to speak to our federal lobbyists again, emphasize to them that both in fire and policing, if there's any federal dollars that become available, that we are in critical need or desire for those funds moving forward. Experiencing the comment that the city manager just made that next year something's going to happen. I think we all, even as a commission, have anticipated that, but maybe we get ahead of it.
I would like to think so.
Great. And then, so Chris, thank you. That sounds good to me. I like it. And Mayor, I just want to get John Herb's kind of, I'm good with where we're heading for all this. I just want to get John Herb's kind of reaction as we're, finalizing this.
Thank you, Commissioner. So, Mayor and Commissioners, you have my memo, which obviously is dated a little expectationally, but we had an opportunity to talk with the staff of OMB, Laura and her folks, and look at the changes that were made by the city manager in coordination with them. We asked some questions about how the projections were achieved, and we made some recommendations, which you see in here, one related to the financing. But I would give them credit. They've been able to accommodate the commission's policy direction and do it in such a way as to not have a negative impact in any of the other areas of the budget. I think the shifting from fully funding the life pack purchase to financing it over their useful life makes sense, and to be able to fit in the rest of your personnel requests with that move, I think is a smart way to go. The only thing we did note, and the city manager pointed out, and I echo that, is you've got significant ongoing costs that are going to be very difficult to accommodate within our current millage rate structure. And I think, again, as he says, it's pretty much telegraphing that next year it's going to be a challenge to do the same thing. I mean, we've been very fortunate that our new construction and the growth in our property values has allowed us to maintain our millage rate for so long. We can't do that in perpetuity. I don't know if it's next year or year after that, but we do want to make sure that everybody is aware of that. And
well, I think the message is also to be sent to these nonprofit organizations.
They might get cut.
We've been very generous this year, as in years past, but I'm not in favor of raising our millage rate to support the nonprofits. It's just not the appropriate thing. We seem to have had money in our account to be able to accommodate this, but I don't see us being able to maintain these funding levels in the future if what you're telling us is that we're going to be strapped in future years when it comes to trying to cover our expenses just in the general operation of the city. So,
and I concur.
Yeah. What I think, I think our earlier meeting today is indicative of the fact that there are unlimited wants in our city, whether it be for capital improvement projects, whether it be for the not-for-profit sector, as well as for our internal operating costs. And so the question of resource allocation is one that you as policymakers are going to have to be challenged with every year, because again, every one of these is a worthy subject for discussion. The CIP needs are certainly there. The not-for-profit community brings tremendous value to the city in many ways, and it's important for us to be a partner with them to the extent that we can do that financially. And again, that's I am very happy that the city manager is the one who's tasked with putting together the budget and not me. I just have to look at the numbers and see if they add up and make sense.
Okay, any further comments?
I want to make one comment, and it's dealing with police. This real-time crime scene lab and being able to staff these folks over there. We look at, it may look like a lot of money tonight, but because BSO has invested in the infrastructure, which is the millions in how it works. And if you get a chance as a commissioner to go over there or leadership and look at this real-time crime scene lab, we save millions of dollars on the infrastructure, but we're gonna have the same access as everybody that buys into it just by being able to put 4 of our bodies over there to analyze our own data, which is already a part of this makeup of the system. Am I correct in not getting it? But my tour over there just really enlightened me and opened my mind as to how much more we can add to this in the future. And it just gives us so much real-time data. I mean, we know where
CSI Fort Lauderdale?
Actually, it's just like that. You know where every sexual offender is in this city when they're court ordered back to an area. And North Lauderdale has the largest percentage of sexual offenders. And you see all these blue dots in North Lauderdale.
North Lauderdale?
And every time the dots move, if that person moves, they're tracking those dots. So, I mean, the technology and the science it brings to policing today is amazing. So if you get an opportunity to go over there and check it out, and if we can keep adding to that, we're going to keep building on public safety.
Okay. Very
Mayor,
good.
I do have a question.
Yes.
For
We're trying to
Laura.
get
If
this
that,
meeting concluded, but go ahead.
thank you. No, it's okay. Because earlier Commissioner McKenzie mentioned equity. So that's important to me. I do know the 11 groups that I've had on my list that I've submitted months ago. I know that all of those numbers were reduced from their asks or at their asks, and the maximum was 20,000. I kept it at that because I knew of our budget constraints. So I would like to know what the dollar amount asks were, Laura. Do you have the list from when they originally applied? Because I know that you just reduced a few, but I'm going to be honest, I'm still having a problem with 78,000 for one group, which is more than 3 times the amount of any other group on this list. Again, so for equity purposes, I'm thinking that's a little high.
But that was their initial ask.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
No, I
You get
understand.
matching dollars for that money too. Man.
No, I understand. I do, but you have to understand something. That's almost as much as we give to the Historical Society, which does also a lot of services for the city. Buildings falling apart. It's almost as much as we give to the Stranahan House. So again, it's just for me a matter of equity because it wasn't on any of our lists up until tonight, this moment. This moment. I like to be able to study something. I like to be able to see progression of something, how it happened. So can you please just tell me what all of these groups were in terms of that ask? There's only 8 of them. It'll take a second. Thank you for your indulgence, Mayor. So I just want to make sure that everyone's being treated equitably. So the AK Academic Foundation, which is now down at 10,000, what did they request?
10,000.
Okay, well, so it was going to be doubled. Okay, community-based connections, it's at 20 now. What'd they ask?
Yeah, we also don't like doing this on the fly, sorry. 150,000.
Okay, thank you. Delta Education and Life Development Foundation, we're down at 10 now on that.
Delta Education, 72,780.
Okay, thank you. Homes Inc., we're down at 10.
I didn't hear that.
72 and change.
$72,780.
Homes Inc., we're down at 10 on that.
Homes Inc., $458,290.
Thank you. Mount Bethel Human Services at 20 now.
They were 100 something.
$130,895.
Okay, thank you. Northwest Federated, we know that the ask was 78 and change, and it's staying at 78 and change. Oasis of Hope Community Development Corporation, it's at 20 now.
50,000.
Okay, Old Dillard Foundation.
35,000.
Omegas of Broward.
No application.
Oh, there was no application. Did we recently do a project where we funded Omegas on something a couple of months ago?
They did a CRA project improving a property they own on the.
Was it in what did we do with that? Chris, do you remember? We just funded recently a project with Omegas of Broward.
It was the CRA.
I do not. Off the top of my head, no, I'm sorry, I don't.
Building improvement.
I remember the name. We did do something where we funded.
Mhm.
How much?
I think it was what every building in the CRA is allowed to apply for. I think it was $325 or $275. I think it was for the build out, and it was I think $75 for the facade program.
Okay, so we'll give them about 300,000?
Well, it didn't go to the.
It didn't go to those, it went to improve the buildings.
I got you. Okay.
It's two more, I think.
Zeta Dove Foundation is the last one.
That was the last one. No application submitted.
Excuse me?
No application submitted.
Okay, great. I know that we're trying to keep it under the 327, which we'll totally get rid of, but the only one I'm having an issue with is the one at 78, because it's just way out of line with all of the others, but that's just my opinion. But I just wanted to find out what all the others asked, so I think we're in line with that. So I'm okay with the list. Thanks.
Okay. All right. So would someone like to?
Yeah, Mayor, can we just get the total real quick? I see we have the list that we just got. Thank you. We have the list that we talked to with the Budget Advisory Board. I think that was like 1.5 million, right? That was, I have in my notes.
Oh, yeah, so.
Maybe that was an old CAM, the City of Fort Lauderdale FY 2022. Recommended nonprofit grant funding, 1.543. And then.
So it looks like the nonprofit organization grant funding initially, 1.543054. And then what we called grant funding, which was things like Broward League, MPO, et cetera, 687,711.
Right, and that's now in our general fund, so that's also nonprofit. So we have three different buckets of nonprofit funding. So we have the 687.
So we've got basically 687.
711.
That equals 2.230.
Plus everything we just discussed right now.
Which is
325 and change.
Which is going to put us at 2.5.
About 2.5
2.5.
total.
2.5, 2.6.
All right, so that's what we're discussing for this year, and like the mayor said, that's certainly open for consideration next year if we're discussing raising property taxes.
Right. In the past few years, though, that's pretty consistent, though, right? Haven't we always been right around 2 to 1?
Since this commission, yes.
Yeah, it's been in that area. 2.556,594 is the actual number.
Okay. Thank you.
How many more years do we have on our commitment to the Parker Playhouse? Is it still going? Is it still ongoing?
It is still ongoing.
Was it 5 year or 10?
Was it 5 years?
Oh, it's 5.
Oh, 10 years.
Yeah, that wasn't on this list, I don't think. It is on that list?
It's our facility, so it's listed in the CIP.
Oh, so it's in a CIP.
Okay, it's all right. I don't mean to, it's okay.
Yeah.
So would someone like to introduce a resolution that adopts the city manager's recommendation as amended by this commission with regard to the, what's the exhibit?
I need to read the revisions, Mr.
read
Mayor.
the-
Yes,
okay,
if I can.
why don't you go ahead and
If
do
you're
that?
going to move forward, as I believe you are, it would
Go
be
ahead.
adopted with revising section 1 of the resolution by replacing the reference to Exhibit 1 with Exhibit 6 to City Commission Agenda Memo 21-0741, as well as revising section 2 of the resolution by replacing the reference to Exhibit 2 with Exhibit 7 to City Commission Agenda Memo 21-0741. That would be the resolution as amended.
So which is Exhibit 7? Is that the nonprofit section?
The personnel complement.
Okay, so we need to, there should be another amendment with regard to the nonprofits.
That was the first amendment that I read you.
That needs to be as amended then.
So it's 2
These two
are together.
amendments amend the resolution that would be introduced. One of them changes the nonprofits. The other changes the personnel
Right,
component.
but the one that changed the nonprofits has been amended.
Actually, no, I take that back. We don't need to change the nonprofits because we did it within the dollars that were available. So
Okay.
these both have to do with the changing of the personnel complement.
Okay, all right.
The Jen.
All right. So would someone like to introduce the resolution?
Laura wants to interject, so let's let Laura interject.
Sorry,
so that
yeah.
The record is what she wants it to be.
Yeah. So just to be clear, you have two different exhibits to your budget. One is the all funds budget summary.
Yep.
And the change list that you were provided where it moves money from fire to pay for debt, it moves
Right.
money from fire to pay for police.
Correct.
And then it has the balancer and Jen to pay for these nonprofit organizations. That's the first change. So you're changing the all fund summary. So the total's the same, but it moves from different account to different account in that summary. And then the second one is adding 20 positions to the personnel complement.
But shouldn't the resolution include the specific dollar amounts that this commission has now approved for those organizations?
You don't adopt the budget at that level, you adopt at a department fund level. So
Okay.
that's what's reflected in the all fund summary.
Okay, all right.
You'll see all of those come back to you in their own individual agreement.
Okay.
And that's where you'll know that the
And
dollar
that's what I'll
figure's
end up
correct.
signing?
Correct.
Okay. Is that in my packet tonight, Jeff? Okay. Okay. All right. So, would someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced as amended.
Okay. All right. So the total of all funds budget for the city of Fort Lauderdale is what?
It hasn't changed, I can tell you here. The total is $897,744,024.
Which will fund the various operations of the city of Fort Lauderdale for the fiscal period beginning October 1st, 2021 and ending September 30th, 2022. And someone has introduced that resolution, so please call the roll.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, adopting the final budget of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2021 and ending September 30, 2022, which includes a budget for the general fund, water and sewer central regional wastewater funds, debt service funds, self-insured health benefits fund, community redevelopment agency fund, sanitation fund, parking fund, building funds, central services fund, vehicle rental fund, city property and casualty insurance fund, stormwater fund, airport fund, housing and community development fund, project management fund, cemetery system fund, arts and science district garage fund, cemetery perpetual care fund, Beach Business Improvement District Fund, School Crossing Guard Fund, Nuisance Abatement Fund, Sunrise Key Neighborhood Improvement District Fund, and Police Confiscation Funds, adopting the final City of Fort Lauderdale Personnel Complement and the final Enterprise Fund Return on Investment Policy for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2021 and ending September 30, 2022, and providing an effective date. Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, and that resolution is now approved. Is there any further business of the commission?
Not at this meeting.
Okay. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
But we do have one more
Special
meeting.
meeting, special meeting.
Yeah, we got that.
We have one more meeting.
2-item agenda that we need to get
Come
to
on.
real
I
on
don't
the
know.
undergrounding.
You got a hot date, man? What's
Not
the
so fast. Okay.
jeez.
Now you've got to call the special meeting to order.
Check that script out. Check that script out.
I'm sitting down. Gee, wait. The right side.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the special meeting
There you go.
of the City Commission, Monday, September 13th, 2021. Please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Moritas?
Yeah, here.
Commissioner Glassman?
Here.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Here.
Commissioner Sorensen?
Here.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, here. So R1, a resolution establishing a capital reserve for the water and sewer system. Anyone have any questions? I have one person signed up to speak. Mr. Corbin, you want to speak? Well, you signed up. Did you want to speak? Oh, I didn't hear you. I'm sorry. You do that. You have 3 minutes?
Like it.
Dean, we need clean, clear drinking water now. Even if you sign a P3 tomorrow, it won't be online for 15 years. This is 5-ash.
No, that's 3 years.
The 400,
3 years.
You think you can build a new water treatment plant in 3 years?
That's what we're
You
told.
can't even get a pilot study done in 5 years.
Well, I
So
just want to
dream
correct.
on. Dream on and give me back more time.
Okay.
Thank you.
I don't want to argue.
It's my time now. The $430 million unsolicited bid to replace 5-ash is coming from a company such as Poseidon, who built a water treatment plant in Carlsbad, California, which cost 4 times the initial estimate. You know that? Probably not. $1 billion and $50 million a year. They spent $1.6 million in lobbying fees to get the contract. A proper 6-month pilot study costing $150,000 is the first step to getting rid of green and yellow colors in our water. The ammonia we add to it, and also the really bad toxic chemicals created when you add chlorine to colored water that is obviously not filtered enough. Quite simply, the utility department sabotaged the 2021 Reese pilot study. And the City Commission has no interest in fixing up 5-ash, since doing a pilot study is the first step to see how much ozone, biofiltration, and carbon is needed to filter our disgusting water? Are the millions of dollars paid by Poseidon in lobbying fees to get P3 contracts influencing decision makers? I think so. 30 years ago, Robert Rees determined that ozone would make our colored water clear. 5 years ago, Rees Engineering called for a 6-month pilot study. 2 half-hearted attempts later, we still have green and yellow water and will for the next 15 years. It's obvious that P3 companies are influencing your decisions. Don't let some private company buy our drinking water supply. It's not worth whatever kickbacks they are offering you. Now, Dean, you said you'll put this on the internet, on the city website, right? If I give this to Jeff?
Yeah, what is it?
It's exactly what I'm talking about right now. It shows you the pilot study from Rees, 2021. I'm still waiting for the report from it that was given to the city June 11. But you guys keep saying, oh, it's being redacted. Oh, it's not out yet. It's been 3 months. A few days ago, on Thursday, Abby said it'll take a couple more months until this report, which takes 6 weeks to write up after it's finished from April, that's when it's going to be ready. So I'm saving you guys some time, and if you look at it, you're going to know that the pilot study is going to come out inconclusive because all of the stuff, the equipment they used is all gummed up because they would not, the utility department would not let Rees have a raw water feed in order to analyze source water.
Right.
They let them do it after the lime, and all their equipment got gummed up.
So if you could submit that, then we can put that as part of your presentation today.
The whole thing.
The whole thing. Please present that to us.
Okay, good. And I'm
We
going
can
to...
make copies to the commission for the.
Yeah, and I'm going to bring back my Facebook account and spend about $1,000. And I'm going to educate people that get water from Five Ash, the 8 cities in Broward County, and I'm going to let them know what is going on.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here today. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak on this item? There being none, someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced.
Please call the roll.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, creating a capital reserve for the city's water and sewer system, establishing a funding plan for the capital reserve, and providing for severability, rescission of conflicting resolution provisions, and an effective date. Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie?
No.
Commissioner Sorensen?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes. He should be pointing the finger at you, not me. R2.
I'm the new you
Okay.
when you were a commissioner, okay?
Okay.
I feel bad for both of you.
So R2,
Great.
resolution amending and restating resolution 19.123, declaring the intent to install underground utility line facilities in the La Sola Siles neighborhood, adopting the supplemental assessment methodology report, and setting a public hearing date for the underground special assessment. Someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduce.
Commissioners McKenzie?
Mayor, I do have one question before we do vote, if that's okay.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. So, Chris, I know that this is pretty much tied into the memo that went out a few weeks ago. This is pretty much to clean up some of the blips that we encountered from a decade ago, correct?
The answer is yes.
Yes.
If you want to know what those blips were, I will need to rely on Susan Grant to
No,
bond counsel. The answer to the question is yes.
It's okay. We sent a memo out to the neighborhoods. Everyone's aware. So I just want to make sure that we're rolling now. In other words, this is going to clean that up. And how are we doing on that issue? Are we making progress or?
So let's go ahead and hear from our
Mr. Godard
team then.
will be there with a whip, I'm sure.
So let me start with Susan. Why don't I hand it off to you, and then we'll hand it off from there as to
Susan.
what this does as it relates to the project and where the project is.
Back. Come on down.
Good evening, Mayor and Commission. Susan Grant, Finance Director. And yes, this is step one of 2 steps to finish the rehabilitation of the item. So today we have the assessment resolution, or the restated and amended resolution. We're setting a public hearing date for October 21st. We will be running an ad in a newspaper, as well as doing a first-class mailing to the 309 properties. Once that public hearing happens, on October 21st, the Public Works Department is ready with multiple contracts and awards to the various utilities as well as the contractor, and those will come before the commission after that public hearing, either that day or the meeting right after that.
Great. And then we're just going to keep moving forward.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
And then hopefully all the work we've done here will create a blueprint for all those future projects that you discussed earlier.
Okay, great. Thank you, Susan.
Any further questions? There being none, please call the roll.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, amending and restating its entirety resolution number 19-123 adopted on July 9, 2019, declaring the intent to install underground utility line facilities in the Los Olas Isles neighborhood, describing the underground utility line facilities proposed to be provided, and impose an underground utility line assessment, providing a legal description of the property subject to the special assessment, identifying the boundaries of the Los Olas Isles underground special assessment area and the location for the proposed underground utility line facilities, providing the total estimated underground utility line assessed cost and the portion of the total cost to be paid with an underground utility line assessment, providing for a maximum assessment rate, describing the method of apportioning the underground utility line assessed cost and the computation of the underground utility line assessment for each parcel based upon the supplemental assessment methodology report, describing the manner in which the special assessment shall be made, when the assessments are to be paid, and what, if any, part shall be apportioned to be paid from the general improvement fund of the city, approving a supplemental assessment methodology report, directing the preparation of an assessment roll, authorizing a public hearing, and directing the provision of notice thereof, and providing an effective date. Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes. And Resolution 2 is passed. Any further business of the commission? There being none, meeting is concluded. Thank you.
You sure?
Yeah.
It is now.
That's it.